Good morning, beautiful people. It is Wednesday, February 5th, 2020, the day the Kansas City Chiefs are having their Super Bowl parade. It is off to a wild start. Before the team even arrives, there has been action on the parade route. We will talk about that. We'll talk about all things happening in the sports world, including professional baseball having some massive moves. Is the city of Boston as a sports town dead? We'll dive into that. We'll talk about basketball. We'll talk about the football. All things happening in the sports world will be chattered about today. 1-833-622-3331. We would like you to join the show. If I have to bring out the hammer and hit myself in the head with it because of your phone call, don't take it as disrespect. Just take it as a sign that you should never call a public show again. Evan Foxy, please play some Chase Rice. Let's have a day.
It's the perfect occasion for a little vacation from the heart of the nation. Not your medication, 2 hours of magic. Let's give it a go. Ladies and gents, it's the Pat McAfee Show. It's the Pat McAfee Show.
You're damn right it is Chase Rice. We're in Indianapolis, Indiana with all the boys here at Nick Moraldo, at Tone Diggs, Ty Schmidt, Jason McAfee, Cuban Zeet is here at Evan Foxy, and our guy Bubba Gumpino, Canadian Gumpy, is here for a couple more days. 1-833-622-3331. We want to hear from you to chit-chat with us. Beautiful Wednesday, February 5th here, although the Super Bowl was just recently concluded and the Kansas City Chiefs are the world champions. It is the baseball world that are stealing the headlines today and last night. To talk about that is our baseball correspondent, our baseball specialist, a man who played college baseball, a guy who declined an invitation to play or to go to Harvard so he could play college baseball at Iowa. Ladies and gentlemen, Ty Schmidt.
In hindsight, not a great idea.
Terrible.
Just throwing that out there.
If anybody goes to Harvard, by the way, that's all they say about them forever. Like, you check one, they're like, this Harvard guy did this, and other people, Harvard guy did this, Fitzpatrick, Harvard guy did this. You had a chance to be Harvard guy Ty Schmidt, but instead, your love of baseball and of Iowa and of corn kept you an Iowa Hawkeye, and I think forever will be respected, but forever question that decision by you. Let's talk about some baseball.
Absolutely. So the Boston Red Sox, they've been in the news obviously quite a bit lately. They're cheaters. They just fired their manager. Everyone knows that. They just traded Mookie Betts and David Price, arguably their two best players. Mookie Betts, 2 years removed from an MVP season, only player in MLB history to win an MVP, a Silver Slugger, a Gold Glove, and the batting title and a World Series in the same year. Only player that's ever done that. They just got rid of him, traded him to the Dodgers along with David Price, who's a Cy Young winner, one of their best pitchers. In return, the Dodgers are giving up their best prospect, arguably, in their system, a young outfielder who's really good. They're hoping is going to be able to replace Mookie Betts, and they're also getting a very good pitching prospect from the Twins. They're going to have both these guys under control for the next 5 to 6 years, but basically you're trading two perennial cornerstone pieces of your franchise for two huge unknowns. It's basically a salary dump. They're hitting the reset button, essentially. So it should be interesting to see how the Red Sox fare these next couple years.
Now, the Boston Red Sox, in my eyes, as a person that doesn't follow baseball as much, I always thought the Red Sox were a prominent name in the MLB world, right? I remember their celebrations. I remember Big Papi being all over the place. I guess that's 10 years removed from that type of situation. Is that accurate?
Somewhat. They won a World Series in 2018. So they were very good. Mookie Betts being a huge part of that.
But
obviously.
They won, right, with the guy that came from the Astros, potentially with the garbage can single thing. Is that right?
Correct. Exactly. So, and I think that's a big reason why they're kind of cleaning house right now. If they would have never fired Alex Cora and all this stuff would have came up, I don't think they necessarily are looking to unload these guys as quick. Mookie Betts wanted $400 million, and the Red Sox have already offered him an extension twice, not near where he wanted. So they were probably going to lose him anyway. But with Alex Cora being fired and all this, the storm surrounding him, they just decided to restart right now.
And you got to hit rock bottom to completely hit the refresh button. It feels like they took the game out. They're blowing on it currently, and then they're putting it back in so that if they do have success, just like with the Black Sox scandal and all these other situations, you have to start a new chapter, I would assume is how they view from a PR standpoint. Not a bad move, but boy, it stinks that the Boston teams currently stink. And also, last night, Little Motor Connor Campbell even tweeted, Tom Brady was seen moving his stuff out of his house in Boston, with reports of Giselle being in Nashville looking at schools and houses with Vrabel, potentially at the Las Vegas Raiders, potentially at the Los Angeles Chargers, potentially at the Miami Dolphins, potentially at this place and potentially at that place. Boston fans right now are relying solely on the Boston Bruins getting them a win this year. And if they don't do that, I think we're entering a potential phase of Boston Connor entering what Evan Fox's life has been like for the last 24 years.
I don't think he can handle it. I really don't.
No, we all know he can't. He won't, but it'll be fun to watch. Gumpy, you're a big-time Boston Red Sox fan. Are the Boston Red Sox officially dead at this moment?
It's a very tough situation. You offered him $200 million a few years ago. You then offer him $300 million this year, and he turns it down and wants $420. If he re-signs with the Dodgers, it will be a bad trade, but he's always said he wants to test free agency, though that's kind of when I'll judge it.
I'm a big fan of the MLB turning into professional wrestling, by the way. We got scandals, we got garbage cans, we got robots, we got buzzers, we got this, we got big-time players just getting traded out of the city that they've made a household names in. I like MLB trying their best to become relevant. Look what we did. We just let off the show with this because the Boston Red Sox took one for the entire MLB and said, listen, we'll get rid of our best guys. If that's going to generate some news and some buzz, we'll do that. Nobody knows that pitchers and catchers report in like 7 days. Nobody has a clue of that. The Red Sox are like, listen, we'll go hand up. We'll get rid of our best guys. We'll suck for the good of the greater league, and I can appreciate and respect that.
Alex Cora was also fired for what he did with the Astros, not cheating with the Red Sox.
Alex Cora was the guy who came directly from the Astros to the Red Sox. Then the Red Sox went on to do the exact same thing that the Astros did, have hitting records, home records, and win the World Series. Is that accurate?
No buzzers and no buckets were heard in Fenway. The investigation is almost done.
They were big on Apple Watches, the Red Sox.
So were the Yankees.
Oh, yeah. But they didn't get caught. No one's talking about that.
Chris Young told the Red Sox he learned it all from the Yankees when this all started.
Not a surprise.
Anyways, baseball's dead. Let's move forward.
Dodgers have to win now, though.
Dodgers have to. Dodgers.
They were loaded already. They're already the best team in the NL.
Yep.
Now.
By the way, I
still won't.
am now officially a Dodgers fan.
Kershaw's going to blow it again.
I was a Yankees fan back in the day when they just spent all the money on everybody. Okay, I'm like, you know what? I understand that people probably hate this, but I grew up in a town with the Pittsburgh Pirates, and Pittsburgh Pirates stink. They've gotten worse. They stink, stank, stunk, and their ownership is the worst in all of professional sports. I understand that some people say maybe the Dolan family are there with the Knicks, or maybe the Mets family is bad, and I understand that because it's a big city, and if they suck, a lot more people know about it. Just dive into what the Pittsburgh Pirates ownership has done for, I don't know, the last 10, 40 years, whatever you want to do. They stink. So whenever I saw that a team was trying to win in this baseball game, this game that, to be honest, I always found a bit boring, but I like whenever people are trying their outright best to win. I became a Yankees fan. Then the old man, the boss, or whatever, what is his name?
George Steinbrenner.
Yeah, what was his nickname, though?
Yeah, boss.
The boss. Whenever he passed and his kids said, well, we're not going to do that anymore. We're not just going to dump all of our money into players. I'm like, okay, well, I'm out on you guys then, right? I want a team that wants to just completely go bankrupt to win. Sounds like that's the Dodgers now, and I am a big fan of the LA Dodgers all of a sudden.
The Yankees are back
It's
as
still
well.
the Yankees,
Yeah, they just spent more money on one guy than the Pirates' entire payroll.
Yeah.
So
Maybe I'm back on the Yankees. I don't know, but I like those people that go all in attempting to win. Good for baseball. NBA is also happening. Big news for our guy Zion last night. People are saying he potentially got humbled, I guess. Gumpy, is that accurate?
Yeah, Giannis blocked him a few times. He did rip the ball right out of Giannis's hands, though.
Which is a man thing to do. I guess the Milwaukee Bucks are on pace to potentially be the best, most winning NBA team in the history of the NBA. Is that accurate?
Yep, the Celtics aren't far behind, though, in the East.
That's just not true.
That's exactly true.
I mean, they're nowhere close to the Milwaukee Bucks. Milwaukee Bucks are on pace to be the quickest to earn a playoff spot in the history of the NBA.
Okay, even the Golden State Warriors a couple years ago,
Correct.
whenever they were hot.
The Warriors they clinched on February 25th.
How many losses do the Bucks have this season, Tony?
7? 6?
How many losses do the Warriors have that whole season, Tony?
8.
These games, I mean, these sports stink. Just let me know whenever we get to it. The All-Star break is almost here for the NBA.
Yeah.
MLB pitchers and catchers report in 6 days. There's some storylines happening and all that. But obviously, this particular show is going to continue to talk about the NFL because it's what we know most about. Right now, there's a lot of conversation about Dak Prescott, obviously. Right now, there's a lot of conversation about what's going to happen with Patrick Mahomes. I would like to dive into the thought of what other sports shows are asking questions of. Whether it's Get Up in the Morning or Pro Football Talk or First Things First or all these things. On our televisions, we have them up every single morning. In some of the bottom lines that we have Zito create, ask these questions is to set them up for answers that are very interesting questions. And I was like, you know what? That's something we should do. And instead of creating our own questions, we just stole some of theirs. Diggs, would you like to ask us some questions from other sports shows?
I'd love to. Should Dak sit out if he gets franchised?
So I don't think Dak should sit out if he gets franchise tagged. First things first, it's $27 million guaranteed, okay? It is a guaranteed payday. I got franchise tagged after my rookie contract because the general manager wasn't the biggest fan of mine. I think he wanted to send me out of town. Mr. Irsay said, brother, McAfee's not going anywhere. So they franchise tagged me the next morning, okay? And I couldn't sign that thing quicker. Right. As soon as I heard about it, I was like, how much am I getting? 2 million guaranteed? They're like, yeah. I'm like, that's more money than I deserve. That's more money than I could have ever imagined getting. And I signed it immediately. Now, everybody knows that the franchise tag is the average of the top 5 salaries at your position without any bonuses, right? So, for instance, for me, it was kickers and punters, top 5 without any bonuses. And it was 2-point-something million at the time. And I signed it quickly because I was like, yo, I'm becoming a millionaire as soon as I signed this thing. This is awesome. Never expected. I think we're actually on a flight to Canada for Nick's little brother's birthday. We're going to Niagara Falls because he turned 19, okay? So I got a text message basically saying I'm getting franchise tagged. We were in Canada, and I looked around and I said, I'm a millionaire. I'm a millionaire. Let's go have a great time. We got all the loonies and toonies in the town. Now, once again, just like the day I got drafted, I didn't understand that a signing bonus, that the money doesn't just hop into your account like as soon as you sign your name. It took a little bit. So I was almost broke. But, I mean, we went for it in Canada. And for me, for Dak Prescott, this is a guy who has outplayed his pay. I mean, everybody knows that. He retired Tony Romo. He has performed at a level that you could have never guessed that he was going to perform for where he was drafted. He hasn't made a lot of money on the field in comparison to other quarterbacks who have done what Dak Prescott has done. Now, going into a contract, the coach that you've had getting fired is a wild move for you, okay? So for me, going into my contract year, Jim Caldwell gets fired, whole new coaching staff, whole new general manager thing. Even in high school, going into my senior year of soccer, coach gets fired, see you later. In college, going into my senior year, coach leaves, new coaching staff, see you later. It's just one of those things where whenever you have a new GM, a new coach, whatever, they don't have a new GM, a new coach, you have to reprove yourself, and those people have visions of what they think the future is supposed to be. I would assume that this franchise tag is much more McCarthy's decision than it is Jerry Jones' decision. I would assume that Mike McCarthy is saying, hey, I would like to know how I like this guy, how we get along. Before we sign this guy up for a 5-year massive deal, I would like to know that I get along with him. Now, many people are saying, well, if Dak gets franchise tagged, he should just hold out because he deserves more. I agree. I think Dak has done everything you could possibly do to deserve and earn a massive contract. It just so happens that the situation that he's currently in with a new head coach, a new set of coaches around him, now Kellen Moore stays, but everything like that, I think this is going to have to be, yet again, for Dak Prescott, another prove-it year for Dak. Now, I don't think it's fair. I don't think it's right. I just think that's the situation that he's in. Now, would you take $27 million guaranteed if you're Dak Prescott? I know I would. Now, am I anywhere near the position that Dak Prescott's in for potentially getting $100 and some million contract, which is what he owes? I agree he deserves that. But in this particular situation, I think you sign it. I think you continue to prove that you're an outright baller. You make a lot of money off the field because you're still the Dallas Cowboys starting quarterback. You build up a relationship with Mike McCarthy, and then you get broken off after next season, especially if they get to the playoffs. Jerry Jones, in that magical interview he did while promoting
Salvation
Army, he said, I just want to win a game. Okay, I just want to win games. And my hand does not get cramps when it's writing checks. I think if you go back in history, though, he didn't want to pay Tony Romo. He didn't want to pay this guy. He didn't want to pay. Sometimes it's not the cramp that gets in there, but He definitely gets mind block whenever he wants to do it. It's a massive amount of money whenever you're dumping in a quarterback, and I think they want to make sure McCarthy and Dak are a good fit. But if I'm Dak, I don't ruin anything that I had going this past season. This past season, he was a much better quarterback than he had been in years past. Let's continue to ride that train. Let's not get rusty. Let's dominate and know that on the other side, there's a massive contract coming. Or you can just sit out, chill, and then there's just a massive question mark on who's going to want to pay a guy that chose to sit out an entire year because he didn't want to make $27 million guaranteed. It's like a Lev Bell type situation. Lev Bell wanted to sit out for this, sit out for that, and he ended up in the end not really getting as much as he had hoped. He did get $37 million guaranteed, but he was nowhere near the player that he was before that. I think Dak, it sucks. It absolutely sucks the situation he's in, but I think he's got to play and get that $27 million.
For Dak, he's made 4.7, and then if he gets tagged and gets 27, he'll be up over 30. But so how does the insurance policy work? What if he plays on that franchise tag year and has like an Alex Smith type injury and he can never play again?
So I got a Lloyd's of London insurance policy on my legs whenever I was franchise tagged. And it's quite a hustle, man. I mean, I had to pay like $50,000 for this thing, but it was a $15 million insurance policy. And the only way I would have got this Lloyd's of London insurance policy, you know, and you feel like an idiot if you don't get it. The only way I would have got it is if I couldn't have physically kicked a ball for 12 months. So I would have to have an Alex Smith type injury. I would have to have a lawnmower saw off my leg. And if it did, I would have got $15 million. Boom, on the spot 12 months later. But you have to get okayed by all these doctors. Like, hey, he couldn't have performed. He couldn't have performed. He couldn't have performed. It has to get all that checked. But I assume he's going to get a Lloyd's of London or whatever. I assume he's going to get that. But it is exactly what you said. It has to be like an Alex Smith type injury. It can't be because he sucks and ruins his future earnings. It can't because he gets hurt for a couple games during the season, which could potentially hurt his future earnings. It has to be like a career-ending, devastating injury to get your money. And I signed up for it because everybody around me said it was a smart decision, and it was $50,000 down the drain. But I would have got it. I would have got it if it wouldn't have happened. So I assume he'll do that, and I think Dak should play. And I'm excited for these chips to continue to stack on Dak's shoulder because I think last year was his best year yet, and I can't wait to see what he does with Mike McCarthy, who has been notoriously great with quarterbacks and offenses. Now, towards the end there with Aaron Rodgers, obviously got a little bit discontent between them. But I think if you look back at Mike McCarthy's offense, you look back at what he's been able to do with quarterbacks, I think Dak's going to have his best year yet next year.
Obviously, the situation's different because it's a different guy's money, but I wonder if he looks to it like Zeke this past year. It's like we got a new coaching staff. The last thing we need to start off this season is a bunch of drama and like a media circus surrounding me not playing this year and holding out.
Well, and what if they go on and win a Super Bowl and he has a year like Patrick Mahomes and gets $200 million instead of what he's supposed to get, right? Sure. You got all these people that are like, yo, he's owed. But also, let's flip it on its other side here. What if he plays better than he's ever played and he somehow earns himself even more money? That, which is possible, especially with the jump that Dak Prescott made from the year before to this past year. I'm excited to see what he does next year. Let's go. We got to get to a break. When was the last time you were driving through a storm and thought, wow, I love not being able to see when I drive?
That's never happened.
I don't think any human has ever done that.
No.
Yeah, I know I haven't. Well, now driving in bad weather doesn't have to be a headache thanks to the new Michelin Endurance XT silicone wiper blades. These blades last through everything. To prove it, Michelin just put their new Endurance XT silicone wiper blades to the ultimate test on a world record-breaking 16,000-mile drive from Alaska to Argentina to show just how durable these blades are. Rainier Zeitlo, the
Great guy.
beat drop. Rainier Zeitlo was the man behind the wheel, and he put the Michelin Endurance XT silicone wiper blades through ice, snow, rain, thunder, and wind, and the blades took all of it. These blades are crafted for extreme weather performance with an advanced Quad-Tech 4-layer coated silicone that repels water, snow, and ice and lasts 2 times longer than the other blades. The Michelin Endurance XT silicone wiper blades are real-world proven for extreme weather performance. Upgrade to the Michelin Endurance XT silicone wiper blades today only at Walmart. So to wrap up the Dak thing, I think it sucks that he's not getting a long-term deal, but you sign that franchise tag, you get that $27 million chicken guaranteed, and you go ahead and have the best year ever, and now you're competing for an even bigger payday with a new CBA. That's just a positive way to look at it. We can look at it negative-wise or positive. I choose the positive. Good for Dak Prescott. Good luck this year. We're back on the other side. It's 20 minutes after the hour. This is the Pat McAfee Show.
It's happening. People are freeing themselves from their wireless contracts. It's a movement towards something simple. Get truly unlimited data on a 5G-ready network for just $45 a month, with no contract, ever. Simple Mobile. Out with the old, in with the simple.
Welcome back to the Pat McAfee Show here Wednesday, February 5th. Just broke down the Dak Prescott situation. I think he should sign a franchise tag if he gets it and just ball out for $27 million with guaranteed and have a great year. Maybe make a little playoff run and make even more money than he was supposed to make this year after next year. And then next year, when that happens, I would like this to be clipped. Next year, when that happens, everybody's going to talk about how smart Dak Prescott was in betting on himself, playing on the franchise tag, and earning himself even more money. So, hey, congratulations to Dak Prescott.
Baby Dak.
Had a baby Dak. Had a baby Dak. I don't know if you know this, if you're listening around the world. There was something that kicked off this Kansas City Chiefs Super Bowl parade today that I don't think I've ever seen in my entire life at a victory celebration. Just about an hour ago, now this is supposed to start at 11:30, I believe, which is an hour from now. About an hour ago, 2 hours before the parade was set to kick off, on the parade route, a car was in the middle of a police chase and got pit maneuvered. This is straight out of a movie. It's real life. The car had 4 police officers following it at about the speed of 5 miles an hour with roughly 2,000 people scattered around the parade route. They're driving right down the parade route. They pit maneuver a Ford Taurus. It starts smoking as if it's GTA. And then there's cops surrounding this. All the while, drunk Kansas City Chiefs fans are just watching in awe of what the hell just happened. So congratulations to the Kansas City Chiefs for winning the Super Bowl for the first time in 50 years. Congratulations to Kansas City, Missouri for getting to host a statewide party. And congrats to the Kansas City Chiefs for having a police chase end in the middle of their Super Bowl parade, because that is something that'll probably never happen again. I don't even know how you get in there. It's gated off. This guy had to do real work. He was evading police officers. I mean, this is just a wild scene in the middle of Kansas City.
Who would have thought Alex Smith would have drove a Ford Taurus?
A lot of people say it's either Bosa, Kyle Shanahan, Alex Smith, you name it. I'm happy for the Kansas City Chiefs fans getting a little wild this morning and forgetting that they're not supposed to go down the parade route. The team is supposed to go down. An easy mistake there whenever you're drunken in a Ford Taurus at 9 a.m.
You're right, though. How does that happen? Isn't like the entire city shut down for something like that?
You would think. I have no idea how it happens. I love that it did.
Yeah, it's incredible.
Nobody got hurt, it looks like.
Probably had fake credentials.
This is straight out of a movie, though. This dude popped over the curb, through some grass, and then gets in the middle of the. He's just getting beat up by 4. Oh, this is beautiful. Today's going to be a wild day. The Lombardi Luge. Shout out to Travis Kelce and the Kansas City Chiefs for doing something with the Lombardi that should have been happening a long time ago. In the NFL, when you win the Lombardi, there's a lot of kissing of the Lombardi. There's a lot of hoisting of the Lombardi. There's a lot of praising of the Lombardi. But unlike the Stanley Cup, which becomes a massive character in of itself. We saw it with Ovechkin in Pittsburgh. I was very lucky to be a part of like 45 Stanley Cup wins, which is why Pittsburgh is the real hockey town. Stanley Cup, Mr. Lord
Hockey
Stanley
time.
would bounce around from bar to bar as if it was its own human. Hey, Lord Stanley's coming in. Open up a table. Let's get some brews and booze for Lord Stanley Cup. Stanley would come dancing in with either a Russian or a Canadian behind it, and it would get beers dumped in it. It would get dumped off the balcony into people's mouths. I mean, the Stanley Cup becomes this thing of itself in celebration. The fact that Travis Kelce figured out a way to turn the Lombardi into a party, I absolutely love it. I'm very thankful for Travis Kelce creating the Lombardi Luge and utilizing it in a beautiful fashion to chug beers and make the Lombardi a lot more than just a trophy piece. It is now a character in the party, and that's what I'm here for.
Yeah, maybe they should make the football at the top should be come off halfway so that they could pour stuff in it and eat cereal out of it, just like they do with the Stanley Cup.
It'd be cool if you could make that thing like a bong, you know? I guess it depends on
Sure you could.
where you're from. Now, I'm not talking about a vitamin bong. I'm talking about, I guess in some parts of the world, they call it a funnel, like a beer funnel.
Don't
Those
like
people
that.
are wrong, by the way. You are 100% wrong. I understand, though, that that's what you call it. Just like the people that call cornhole bags, you're wrong, but it's completely. Pop is pop. It's not soda. I mean, there's a lot of things that we can go on and on about. But a beer bong, a beer funnel, if somehow the Lombardi could, like, maybe you could fill up the football on the top and then release a hole out the bottom. Now we're talking about the Shield really buying into the fact that it's a celebration.
There's a lot of pressure on Travis Kelce today. Jason Kelce dominated the Eagles parade.
I know. I'm worried about it because he's going to have to one-up that, right? Like, let's assume that those brothers, both very successful, both very talented, they're probably very competitive with each other. Travis Kelce's going to give a speech today at some point, and it's going to be judged against his brothers. That's just how it's going to go. I think he's already beating his brother, by the way. He started the Lombardi Luge. He had that epic speech up on the stage after winning the AFC Championship. You got to fight. They didn't give him any time, but he got in 5 seconds. He got the entire stadium to cheer alongside him. Now he's going to have to give a speech in front of the entire state that already has had a police chase in it. I mean, it's going to be an epic day for Travis Kelce, but he's going to be judged against his brother immediately.
I mean, if he's smart, just load up the beer luge. Just do that like 100 times up there. People will go nuts.
Absolutely. I mean, those videos of Gronk catching beers shirtless in Boston and just absolutely housing them. I mean, that is something that I do have a little bit of regret, is that I never got to be a part of a Super Bowl parade.
Yeah, you would have done quite well.
Oh, I think so. I think so. Back in the day, that would have been fantastic. Let's go to Robert in Atlanta. Robert, what's up, pal?
What's up, guys? I just want to talk about George Kittle and how amazing he should have been in the Super Bowl. I had him as my pregame MVP. However, he missed his opportunity, and he won't get it again because Indianapolis Colts are winning the Super Bowl next year because old knee brace Brissett is pulling a Forrest Gump, getting out of that knee brace and running all the way to the chip, baby.
I respect that, Robert. I like that mindset, by the way. Go Colts, man. I'm a big fan. He's down in Atlanta. He's a Colts fan. I don't know what's going to happen with the quarterback situation in Indianapolis. That's a massive decision for Chris Ballard to make this offseason. Chris Ballard, in his press conference, said that we didn't know if Jacoby was a long-term answer. That's why we signed him to a short deal. So maybe he gives him an entire offseason being a starter, which Jacoby has never got. Maybe he brings in another quarterback. And for George Kittle was mic'd up, obviously. They have him mic'd up for every game because he's an electric factory on the microphone. He said during that game, remember this, I'm going to be back here, I'm going to be back here, I'm going to be back here. Remember this, remember this, remember this, right? So George Kittle was like trying to take in the moment as much as he possibly could, even though they lost. And he was like basically telling himself, like, we are going to be back here no matter what. And I want to tell him, that is not necessarily the easiest thing. I was there my rookie year, never, ever got back. But I think the type of player that George Kittle is, he's the type of player who could put his team on his back legitimately. And I think people forget that because the last couple games of the season, George Kittle was used as a blocker. George Kittle wasn't the pivotal point of the offense. But George Kittle, if he was in an offensive system that was 100% revolving around George Kittle, he would topple Gronk, I think, as the greatest tight end of all time. But instead, we have to now wonder another year, will George Kittle be able to just put a team on his back if they ever let him?
Also, is he forgetting that he really had like a 50-yard reception at the end of the first half? And
Yeah, George Kittle got screwed.
Well, and they didn't use him. He wasn't a focal.
what I'm saying.
Yeah, he wasn't a focal part of the game plan. Like he was open on plenty of those.
Debo got the ball.
Exactly.
Debo Samuel was a massive emphasis, obviously. Emmanuel Sanders, they took a couple shots to him. But George Kittle, there's a couple different plays where he's just wide open and he wasn't even looked at. I have no idea why. Maybe it's because they thought that people would double George Kittle. So maybe that's something they're like, hey, listen, this guy's going to get doubled. We're going to have to do this. Kyle Shanahan's a very smart coach. Let's assume that that's what he thought, that George Kittle, they would take him out of the game. George Kittle is a game changer, a game wrecker, and I hope we get a chance to see him do a Super Bowl parade as well, because I would assume that will be legend. I'm pulling hard for Travis Kelce today, though.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
It is not going to be an easy task, by the way, for him to, there's going to be a lot of comparisons to Gronk, right, during parade performance. And then when he gets on a microphone, there's going to be a lot of comparisons to his brother. I mean, winning the Super Bowl is not easy. Winning the Super Bowl is not easy. It doesn't just free yourself of judgment.
Because his brother had that incredible outfit. Like, if he comes out in an outfit like that, is he trying too hard?
I know, right? No matter what he does, he can't win right now.
Oh, boy.
Travis Kelce just needs to be Travis Kelce. He's already off to a lead, right, with the Lombardi Luge. A lot of people have had the opportunity to do that. A lot of partiers have won the Super Bowl. A lot of legendary party animals have won the Super Bowl, and that's the first Lombardi Luge I've seen, right? That's the first time I've ever seen that. So the fact that he's already off and running a little bit, I think Travis Kelce will figure it out. What will he wear, though? He's a big-time fashion guy.
Yeah, he's a big-time fan.
I wouldn't mind seeing him in full pads. That'd be awesome if he just came out in full pads.
This just in, by the way, Hugh Jackson will be joining us in 56 minutes. Hugh Jackson, formerly head coach of the Cleveland Browns, and then an advisor for the Cincinnati Bengals, who has just been hanging out and created a tequila company.
Good call.
Will be joining us at 11:30 Eastern Standard Time. For a lot of people, Hugh Jackson's probably a guy that makes you go like, that guy stinks, probably because the way Hard Knocks portrayed him. We talked to him about 2 months ago. Great conversation. I completely 180'd how I felt about Hugh Jackson. And I think you might as well. I have no idea what he's going to say. I have no idea where he's going, what he's doing, how he's going to do it. But I'm excited to chat with him and see what he's
Maybe
doing.
not as a head coach, but he's good enough to be in the league as a coach at some level.
I agree. That's like Rex Ryan.
He's a great OC.
When I talked to Rex Ryan, I was always like, Rex, when are you going to get back into coaching, man? When he was like, they'll never give me another head coaching job, Pat. And I was like, yeah, don't you normally have to like kind of re-earn your stripes as offense coordinator? Like, for instance, Jim Caldwell was our head coach, led us almost to an undefeated season to a Super Bowl. 2 years later, Peyton Manning has to get neck surgery, neck fusion. We have Curtis Painter, Dan Orlovsky, Kerry Collins. Suck for luck campaign. He gets fired. Great coach, by all means, in my eyes. Jim Caldwell was a head coach on a team that I played for, obviously. I thought he was a great head coach. He gets fired. He goes to the Ravens, becomes offense coordinator, turns Joe Flacco into a weapon again. Then he gets the Detroit Lions head coach. Chuck Pagano, head coach of the Colts, had success. Now he's D coordinator. I think that's kind of how it works, is you got to go back down, buy your time, earn your stripes, prove that you still want to coach, and then you get a head coaching job again, because it's not easy being a head coach. There's a lot that goes with it.
Rex doesn't seem like the kind of guy who wants to be a DC either. He seems like he wants to run the show if he's coming back.
I would love Rex having to answer to somebody again. I would. Rex, by the way,
Seems like he's having fun.
Rex won a lot of games.
Oh, yeah.
With not that great of a team in New York City for a franchise that has not won a lot of games since he's been gone.
He got Mark Sanchez to 2 AFC championship games. Don't give me that look like Mark Sanchez is this great quarterback.
The Sanchez?
Go ahead, defend him. Please, Gumpy. Go ahead.
We got to get to a break.
Didn't think so.
I will not stand for the Sanchez slander.
If it wasn't for this break, I mean, I could go on a run.
It's not our fault. Commercials have to happen. Are you going after Sanchez because he's Latino?
Tony.
Because he's a bad quarterback.
Oh my God.
Someone on this show has to be truthful.
Zito, he just said he
I
doesn't
hate
like
this slander. I don't like it.
Sanchez, good dude, by the way. You got a chance to meet him this year?
Sure, I'm sure he's a great guy. Played for like 14 teams.
Come on, Tom.
Give it a rest.
You're going to tell me
Tony.
Tim Tebow stinks too?
Yes.
Oh, come on.
Great guy. Bad quarterback.
Hey, who was the quarterback for the Broncos that just put the Steelers on the bench for the offseason?
Mr. Tebow?
Demaryius Thomas did that.
Hiring the right people. This is very difficult, especially if they have slander in their heart, hate in their heart. Hiring the right people is one of the best ways to help you grow your business, but it shouldn't take time from your other priorities. With LinkedIn Jobs, it doesn't have to. LinkedIn Jobs screens candidates with the hard and soft skills you're looking for so you can hire the right person fast. Things like collaboration, creativity, adaptability. LinkedIn looks beyond the work skills and puts your job posts in front of qualified candidates who match your business requirements perfectly. That's how LinkedIn makes sure your job post is seen by the people you want to hire. People with the skills, qualifications, and other interests that will help your business grow. It's no wonder a person is hired every 8 seconds with LinkedIn, and why companies have rated LinkedIn Jobs the #1 hiring platform for delivering quality hiring.
Wow.
Good for LinkedIn Jobs. Find the right person for your business today with LinkedIn Jobs. You can pay what you want and get the first $50 off. Just visit linkedin.com/Pat. Again, that's linkedin.com/Pat to get $50 off your first job post. Terms and conditions obviously apply. Don't be an idiot. We're back on the other side with some phone calls. It's 40 minutes after the hour. This is the Pat McAfee Show.
At Simple Mobile, you get the no contract advantage. Unlimited talk, text, and data now for $30 a month. Now on a 5G ready network with no activation fees ever. No confusion, no complexity, no frustration, and no contract. Ever, ever, ever. Now get unlimited talk, text, and data for $30 a month. And now 5G ready. It's our best deal ever. Buyers now at nationwide retailers or at Simple Mobile dealers. Learn more at simplemobile.com. Simple Mobile, out with the old, in with the simple.
Welcome back to the Pat McAfee Show. 44 minutes after the hour here on this Wednesday, February 5th, 2020. Let's get to some news from Nick.
Pro Football Hall of Fame class of 2020 was announced this weekend, and it's taken us till Wednesday to get to talk about it. Is there a reason for that, Pat?
Congratulations to Edgerrin James, Colts running back, legend, one of the first guests on our show whenever we retired, makes it into the Hall of Fame finally. There's a lot of conversation about who deserves to go in, who doesn't deserve to go in. Edgerrin James on the field, absolute terror for his opponents. Edgerrin James off the field, one of the most hilarious humans of all time. They had a preseason game scheduled to be in Japan or something along those lines, in the taxing and everything like that. It would have been like a week-long trip with all this stuff. And Bill Polian came out, I guess, and said that nobody's allowed to be injured, right? Because Edgerrin James and the boys, I guess, came out and said that they had pulled their hamstrings or something. They couldn't go on the trip to Japan. They're very sorry or whatever. It just became like quite a little situation here in Indianapolis between the reporters, the team, talking about going to Japan and all that stuff. And Edgerrin James said something about like, the closest I'm going to get to Japan is P.F. Chang in an actual interview. Then fast forward, Edge ended up going. They just sat. They didn't play at all. It was a massive thing. I'm sure he was happy to go. But at the time, Edgerrin James, if he was around during the social media era, he would be one of the favorite football players on earth. Just a hilarious individual, good guy. And now he's a businessman, and he has an adult gentleman's ballet down in Miami. Never, ever changed. Edgerrin James never, ever changed, refused to change to try to get in the Hall of Fame. He gets his Hall of Fame bid. I'm very happy for him. Very happy for Cower. Very happy for Jimmy Johnson. Very happy for
Go ahead, say it.
Steve Atwater.
Steve Atwater.
Isaac Bruce. Steve
Isaac
Hutchinson.
Bruce, greatest show on turf. Very happy for him. Steve Hutchinson, all these guys. Very, 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 very happy for them.
What about friend of the show?
Who's that?
Troy Polamalu.
Troy Polamalu. is the definition of a first ballot Hall of Famer. Okay? Troy Polamalu is a guy who, when he was on a field, you had to watch. He was Lamar Jackson, but on the defensive side of the ball. Whenever the Pittsburgh Steelers were playing, now I grew up in Pittsburgh, so I was obviously forced to watch him play with my father being a diehard fan and Pittsburgh being a diehard fan and them having a lot of success. But I think even if you weren't in Pittsburgh, watching the Pittsburgh Steelers play when Troy Polamalu was on the field was must-see television because he didn't play by the rules. He played by no rules. He had a feel for the game that nobody else knew about. He had this instinct and this sense of what was going to happen before it was going to happen. There's legendary videos of him predicting what the snap count's going to be. There's legendary videos of him timing things up perfectly. And then there's obviously one night in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, where he ruined one child from Pittsburgh's dreams. There was one night in Pittsburgh where Troy Polamalu decided that a kid who grew up in the East Hills of Pittsburgh will never, ever get a chance to fulfill his lifelong football dreams, which is score a touchdown in the NFL. And for that reason, that's why we haven't talked about Troy Polamalu going into the Hall of Fame, because those were my dreams that he ruined. That was my life he decided to poop on. That was my evening in front of my friends and family on national television where I was supposed to score a touchdown, but instead Troy Polamalu decided to do something he had never, ever done before and just line up right in the gap where I was supposed to walk into the end zone, making a shift to the short side of the field, which has never happened. And for that, I will forever remember Troy Polamalu as being a very mean person. Congrats to him, though.
I was thinking about how when you were talking about Troy and how Pro Football Focus grades, like, good luck trying to grade him. Like, you had no idea what he was supposed to be doing.
And I said this on Rich Eisen's show because, I was named punter of the decade by Pro Football Focus, the first ever punter of the decade. There will be other punters of the decade. They will all be trying to chase my title. I very much understand. And Pro Football Focus, a lot of people dock them because they are a group of humans who watch every single play a person has and scores them, and they're most diligent whenever it comes to rating. The AP gives out the All-Pro, but those are mostly just media writers who pick fan favorites for things. Now, granted, those are good players, and good players become fan favorites, but in positions like punters and kickers, a lot of the writers have no idea what they're looking at. So for Pro Football Focus, whenever I would get a good grade from them, I appreciated it, and I very much, because they look at every single thing. Now, what people say is for Pro Football Focus, that whenever they judge a defensive play and they score everybody either +1 or -1 for every single play, they have no idea what everybody's roles are for certain plays. Like, you don't know if a safety is supposed to help out a corner, if a safety was supposed to stay in the middle. So you can't really tell if a defensive end was supposed to go or hold. Like, it's hard to score people when you don't know exactly what they're supposed to do. For kickers and punters, though, it's very easy to tell what we're supposed to do, okay? It's very easy to score. You either did your job right, they didn't get a return, or you didn't do your job right. And being the Pro Football Focus punter of the decade is a big deal for me because it is something that they've looked into and they scored properly. But you're 100% right. How would they be able to judge Troy Polamalu in what he was supposed to do? How about the other safety that was on the field with him? Yeah. How about the other safety that was on the field with him? Is he supposed to make up for Troy? He didn't know Troy was going to go do that. Like, it'd be very difficult to do that. And he was a guy that broke the mold at football. He was a guy who was a superstar. And for me, he's a guy that I'll forever remember for taking a moment away from me and my parents, me and my family in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania.
If we ever talk to your Get Up friend, Ryan Clark, it would be interesting to ask him that. Like, were you supposed to make up for Troy, or?
Like, did you know what he was going to do? Because we thought we knew what he was going to do, and then he did the complete opposite. And he ruined my life. And he did that to a lot of other NFL quarterbacks like myself.
Yeah.
So I stand in good company there. Anything else, Nick?
Jacksonville Jaguars are set to play back-to-back home games in Wembley Stadium in London in the year 2020.
So the way they word that, their home games, is very interesting. I guess that's the color of the jersey they'll wear, but that is not a home game. That is actually the furthest thing away from a home game that is possible in the NFL for Jacksonville. Now, I understand that their owner owns the stadium that they're going to play in, so I guess that can be considered a home game, and I assume they've built up quite a little fan base because they're over there the most often, but that is not a Jacksonville Jaguars fan base over there. That is not a Jacksonville Jaguars opponent fan base over there. That is an American sports fan base over there. You got people wearing every jersey from every single NFL team in games over there. You got people wearing basketball jerseys over there. It's a celebration. It's a beautiful thing. I'm thankful that they're getting games in London and bringing them in. I don't think it's possible to have a team over there. It stinks for Jacksonville Jaguars players that have to go over there for 2 weeks. I'm sure they'll make the most of it and enjoy it and all that stuff. But for the season ticket holders in Jacksonville, all 4,000 of them, this is definitely something that is a sad situation.
Are we hammering Are we hammering the Jags the week 2 game that they're there?
For sure. Or they want to get home and they don't care. You know what I mean? The thing is, we're a routine world. Every human that comes on the show, and even me, the football players are routine humans. Their life is boot camp. Okay? At this time, you do this. At this time, you do this. At this time, you do this. You sleep at this time. You wake up. You do this. And then off season, it's like, all right, what do we do for the next 2 months? We don't know. And then you get back. It's like, all right, you have meeting this time, lift this time, this time, this time. Everything's routine. And then you go to England, and there's a lot of opportunity to go do things. You can get on a train and go to Paris, go shop in Paris. You can do this, you can do that. So it kind of breaks routine a little bit. It's like a bowl game. I would assume that the Jacksonville Jaguars, that second game, are going to be a hammerable offense. I believe that's probably the right move. Nobody knows who their quarterback's going to be, though.
No.
Nobody has a clue. And how many more fines or whatever will the NFLPA have to institute the Jacksonville Jaguars?
It might not even be the two quarterbacks that they have on the roster.
Exactly. Nobody knows. Nobody has a clue. Gardner Minshew is in an RV right now. Okay? Those things are dangerous. We were in an RV in the middle of the Indy 500, almost died. I mean, who knows what's going to happen. But good for the Jacksonville Jaguars. Good for England. Stinks for their season ticket holders. Every single Jacksonville Jaguars ticket holder is getting screwed here out of 2 games. They had to tarp off the entire top.
Chiefs punter Dustin Colquitt wins his family's 4th Super Bowl ring. He's the 3rd member of his family to win a ring with his brother and father with the Steelers and Broncos back in the day.
That family pops out of the womb punting balls. Dustin Colquitt and his brother Britton. Anytime you need to see like perfect form on something, you just watch them. The uncle is very good. I mean, I'm happy for old Dustin Colquitt. 15 years he's with the Kansas City Chiefs. 15 years. A lot of bad years in there. Stuck it through. Became a monster. Still a great punter. Had a 50-yard punt for his first punt, which hammered the over, the 45.5-yard punt. Wins the Super Bowl. I'm happy for him. I'm excited to see him and his 75 children enjoy the hell out of today's Super Bowl parade. We got to wrap up this first hour here. Not a bad one. We talked baseball. We talked the football. In the second hour, 30 minutes after the hour, we have Hugh Jackson talking to us about God knows what. We have a comparison between Tom Izzo and Mike Gundy. Michigan State is falling apart at the seams, but Tom Izzo has a favorite press conference of mine that we have to compare to Mike Gundy. We'll predict what top 10 draft picking team could potentially be next year's 49ers. And we'll talk a little NBA. I mean, this is a good show. Every time we sit down here, we have no clue what we're going to talk about. We'll take some phone calls. Let's have a great Wednesday, February 5th. This is the Pat McAfee Show from Indianapolis, Indiana! I have no clue why you listen. Go take a pee. Go take a poop. We're back on the other side with more magic.
One by one, it's happening. People are freeing themselves from the hassle and frustration of their wireless contracts. It's a movement towards something simple. Simple Mobile. Truly unlimited high-speed talk, text, and data on a 5G-ready network. And no contract. Ever. Get truly unlimited data on a 5G-ready network for just $45 a month. Simple Mobile. Out with the old, in with the simple.
It's the perfect occasion for a mental vacation from the heart of the nation. Not your medication. 2 hours of magic. Let's give it a go. Ladies and gents, it's the Pat McAfee Show. It's the Pat McAfee Show. It's the Pat McAfee Show.
You're damn right it is, Chase Rice. Welcome back to the Pat McAfee Show. Hour number 2 kicking off in beautiful fashion. We're in Indianapolis, Indiana. Joining me at Nick Maraldo's on the 1s and 2s playing independent hack music. At Tone Diggs, Ty Schmidt, Jason McAfee, and y'all seen Cuban Zeet.
¿Qué pasa?
Evan Foxy and Gumpy is on the phones, 1-833-622-3331. The lines are filled. We'll try to get to a couple of those so more people can get involved. The Kansas City Chiefs Super Bowl parade kicks off in about 28 minutes today, but the real action began 2 hours ago when a drunk driver jumped the curb in a Ford Taurus and led a police chase down the Super Bowl route before getting pit maneuvered in front of about 2,000 people and then rammed by an SUV. It started smoking as if it was GTA, fresh out of a movie. The Kansas City Chiefs Super Bowl parade is already more lit than any parade in the history of parades. Ford Taurus pulled up. Everybody run. White boys jump out. One with the gun. Ford Taurus leave. Everybody came back. Hey, hope them boys didn't find my sack, says friend of the show, Young Jeezy. This Ford Taurus went down the Super Bowl parade route this morning, and the police pit maneuvered it. It was smoking. I assume that crowds were cheering it on as if it was Tyreek Hill trying to break away in the backfield. Shout out to Kansas City, Missouri for already kicking off the Super Bowl parade in beautiful fashion. I assume that entire state has been drunk since Sunday about 9 o'clock at night. Also, last night, today is Wednesday, February 5th, Tuesday, February 4th, a massive move was made in the MLB, altering the power players for Major League Baseball. For more on that, let's go to Ty Schmidt.
Yeah, you said it. We mentioned it in the first hour. Big news. Dodgers acquire Mookie Betts, who is arguably probably one of the 5 best players in baseball right now, and David Price, 2 of the cornerstone pieces of the Red Sox. Essentially, it's just a salary dump. They couldn't afford to pay him what he wanted. He wanted upwards of $400 million. They weren't going to do it.
$400 million?
$400 million. Yeah, they offered him $200 million and $300 million. He wants $400+ million over 10 years.
That is double what Bill Simmons just got paid for his entire company that had 90 employees from Spotify, which was $200 million. $400 million for the baseball players. Good for them. Go and get it. Bang on as many trash cans as you can, because if it ends up with $400 million, good on you, pal.
Yep, and in return, they get Alex Verdugo, who is one of the highest-rated prospects in the Dodgers system. Really, really good outfielder, good hitter. He's no Mookie Betts, but that's what they're expecting him to replace him. And then from the Twins, they get a guy named Brusdar Graterol. Is just he throws smoke. He's under contract for like 5 to 6 years. So the Red Sox, I mean, it's essentially just a big reboot.
Well, and the reason why the Red Sox have to do it is because they got caught up in the entire Houston Astros scandal, and they have to hit rock bottom so that they can restart, refresh, reinvigorate their entire operation. David Price, Mookie Betts, 2 of their big-time figures in that team. So whenever you're being linked towards a scandal or linked towards a fraudulent operation, which the Boston Red Sox have been linked. Their guy, Cora, who came directly from the Astros organization to the Red Sox organization, did the exact same thing, won them a World Series just 2 years ago. He gets fired. More and more information comes out. They were using Apple Watches to tell them if a fastball or curveball is coming, that whole thing. Now you're completely resetting, taking the game out, blowing on it, putting it back in, getting back off to a new start. Good for the Boston Red Sox. In 5-10 years from now, they'll be able to say that we restarted, we did this the right way from the jump, and we had to have that rock bottom before we could get to the mountaintop.
Did you see what people were saying?
Nope. What are people saying?
Boston sports are dead?
Whoa.
Now, Little Motor Boston Connor is in the back because Billy Tubes is on vacation, so he has to cut videos for Nick Maraldo to post them on social media at Pat McAfee Show, and also on our YouTube, youtube.com/The Pat McAfee Show, where you can catch all of our stuff on a daily basis. A lot more than just a show. I mean, we're always cooking on there. But Connor this morning mentioned the tweet that he put out last night. Tom Brady moving vans and moving trucks were spotted outside of his Boston home. Giselle has been known or has been talked about to be in Nashville looking at schools. They were in, obviously, Las Vegas for the fight, talking to Mark Davis, the Los Angeles Chargers, the Miami Dolphins, all of these names. Tom Brady's gone. Scarnecchia, gone. Joe Judge, gone. Kyle Van Noy, gone. The only things that are really still there are the Squirrel Edelman and the Belichicks. And aside from that, they're basically rebuilding as well, restarting. Now, do I think they'll be bad? No. I think Belichick has a chance to make them great. But now the Boston Red Sox are just unloading their entire team. The Patriots are unloading their entire team. Is there a complete rebuild happening for New England fans? I think so. And it's a real shame. I'll tell you what, it is a real shame to potentially have to watch Boston Connor suffer through a Miami or Detroit-like season next year, which is possible for the little motor that can't, Connor Campbell.
Choo-choo.
It's too bad, but part of me also thinks that if the Patriots are just terrible next year, and like you said, I don't think anyone thinks they're going to be terrible, but part of me just thinks that somehow, some way, they're going to find a way to get Trevor Lawrence.
1,000%.
Oh.
I don't know what it is, but just something is telling me that.
Well, and then there's also the option for potentially Alex Smith going up there. I mean, if Phillip Rivers potentially going, there's a way that Bill Belichick is still going to figure out a way to cook for that team to be great. Somehow, some way, Bill Belichick, greatest coach of all time, will figure out a way for their team to be good. Will they be the dominant dynasty that they've been for a long time? They weren't this year. They were good. They were great this year. They just didn't win any games in the postseason. They didn't look that dominant. But could this be the dawning of a new day for New England fans? The Red Sox stink.
Yeah.
The Patriots potentially stink. The only thing they can rely on right now is that the Celtics somehow catch up to the Bucks, who are almost about to be playoff clinchers
There it is.
earlier than any human or any other basketball team in the history of the game, and the Boston Bruins potentially winning the Stanley Cup. But I will say this. The run that Boston has been on when it comes to sports is nothing short of impressive. It's envious for every other sports town what Boston has been able to accomplish in success-wise. The Celtics, they win. The Bruins, they win. The Patriots are coming off a 20-year dynasty that was unbelievable. And the Red Sox just won a World Series, albeit cheating, 2 years ago. So Boston has had a lot of success. I'll be intrigued to see what the next 10 years look like for them, especially if they're rebuilding in all fronts.
Can I say something dumb?
No, Diggs. You cannot say anything stupid.
You already did.
I think I heard this morning in the office, but I like it. 50% of marriages end in divorce. Maybe Giselle's in Tennessee looking for a new home, and they're just selling the house because they're separating, and that's just what. And she had that emotional post, and maybe that's what's going on.
Tony, don't make it personal.
For those that are listening to the show, the thoughts and opinions of @Tone Diggs do not reflect that of his employer. Let's get to Dave in Boston. Dave, what's going on?
Hey, what's going on, Pat? How you doing?
Hey, are Boston sports dead up there with everything that's going on?
No, Boston sports are alive and well. And whether or not we even win anything, we're still going to be full of piss and vinegar up here regardless. I'm not too worried about it, man. I was born and raised here in Massachusetts. Nothing's changing. Same thing in, same thing out.
Dave, I'm a big fan of yours, I think. What do you want to talk about, brother?
So I want to talk about this obscure stat that I don't think gets enough recognition. Actually, it's two. So Wes Welker is 0-4 in his Super Bowl appearances, whether he be a player or a coach, right? 2007, 2011 Patriots, then he leaves, goes to the Broncos. 2013, they lose to the Seahawks. They get brutalized. And then he's a wide receivers coach for the 49ers this past year, right?
Oh, man. Yeah, Dave, yeah. Yeah, I didn't even think about poor Wes Welker here. Wes Welker, by the way, that Super Bowl with the Patriots, if you do recall, that was when Giselle came out and said, my husband can't throw it and catch it to himself. That is a direct shot at Wes Welker. Wes Welker then leaves. Still boys with Tom Brady, I'd assume. But he leaves, loses one with Denver. Now he loses. Poor Wes Welker. And remember, there is that legendary story of Wes Welker potentially being on a happy pill down at the Kentucky Derby, winning a massive bet, them overpaying him. Not because of him. They overpaid him, and him just throwing hundreds out to people. Wes Welker, who has been successful in his life, can't win the Super Bowl. What if he's a curse? Whoa. What if there's a Wes Welker curse on the Super Bowl, Dave? Thanks for bringing that up.
Well, this is where it gets weird, right? Because he's lost all these Super Bowls, but every single team he leaves, then goes on to win at a higher level than the team he left when they lost.
What's that?
He
thing?
loses the Super Bowl with the Patriots 2011. He goes to the Broncos. Patriots end up winning the Super Bowl, 3 more Super Bowls after that, but it started 2014.
All right.
Is with
He
Dan-
leaves the Broncos in 2014. They
Good luck,
win
Chuck,
in
yeah.
2015.
He also left the Dolphins.
Dave with some great points there, though.
Yeah.
So is Wes Welker good luck Chuck of the NFL? You know Wes Welker thinks about that, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
Wes Welker leaves the Patriots. He sees them win a Super Bowl. He leaves the Broncos, sees them win a Super Bowl. He's always just like, damn. He did leave the Dolphins, but now the Dolphins are sitting in prime position with the most salary cap available this year, the most first-round draft picks in the 2020 draft. B-Flow is the head coach who seems to be liked by everybody that's ever encountered him. So maybe the Wes Welker good luck Chuck thing has just been delayed a bit, unbeknownst to him. Let's get to teams that are in the top 10 drafting this year, okay? 49ers were the second pick of the draft last year. So although they lost the Super Bowl, let's remember that 1 year ago today, the San Francisco 49ers were a team that everybody talked about being atrocious. They were a team that 2 years ago going into the season, they had a quarterback in Jimmy G that was brought out there, was undefeated. They were being talked about as being this all-time great team, ready to make a run. Jimmy G in the third week zigs instead of zags, tears his ACL. They stink completely. Number 2 overall pick. They obviously pick up Bosa. This year they become an absolute buzzsaw until they run into the Kansas City Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes in the Super Bowl and lose. Next year, which team that is drafting in the top 10 could potentially go on the run like the Niners did? Let's go through it. Cincinnati Bengals, they're going to draft Joe Burrow. Although all the conversation right now is whether or not the Bengals will trade Joe Burrow or the pick to somebody else to pick up other first-round draft picks. I think they'll draft Joe Burrow. I think Joe Burrow will make their team automatically better. I think Joe Burrow will probably win 6, 7, maybe 8 games. Cincinnati Bengals are in a very difficult division. Lamar Jackson's still there. Ben Roethlisberger's coming back. The Browns, if they could ever get it together, are there. It's going to be a tough sledding there for rookie Joe Burrow, but I think they'll be better. I don't think they'll be the 49ers, though. Redskins, pick number 2. Nobody has a clue what's going to happen there. They were giving people fits the second half of the season with Dwayne Haskins at quarterback. We talked to Ron Rivera just 2 weeks ago. He said Alex Smith, who was a great mentor to Patrick Mahomes, is allegedly coming back and he's going to be healthy. Those two will compete for the starting job, but if anybody has any interest in Alex Smith, I assume they will take that, let him go, get some other picks. I don't think the Redskins will make a run just strictly because they're the Redskins and Ron Rivera can't be a magician so quickly. I think they win games. I don't think they become the Niners. The Lions.
Hey.
Matt Patricia, friend of the show.
Hey.
Matt Patricia, friend of the show. We like Matt Patricia a lot, but it just seems as if something in Detroit is always amiss, and that is going to be very difficult and tough sledding to get any wins there, especially with Aaron Rodgers still in town. Kirk Cousins is still in town, and whatever the Bears are going to do, let's assume that they're
It's hard to picture the Lions.
Number 4, the Giants. I think this team could potentially be the team that makes a run next year. One of them. I don't think they're the only ones in the top 10 picking in the top 10 that could potentially make a run next year. But the Giants have an incredible running back in Saquon Barkley. They have a very young quarterback. And if Joe Judge is worth a single damn as a head coach, they could potentially make a run, especially in an NFC East that does not have all the answers figured out around the division. The Dolphins, I think the Dolphins are going to be better. I don't think the Dolphins are going to go on the 49er run. I think they're about 2 years out from that. The Chargers, Diggs likes this team to go on a run if they can get a quarterback. Maybe they get Alex Smith. Maybe they get Cam Newton. Maybe they get Tom Brady. If they do that, whole different ball game. But in my eyes, unless they can secure a top quarterback, I'm not 100% sure they can go on a run. Carolina, I think Matt Rule, it's going to take a couple years, although I like Christian McCaffrey. The Arizona Cardinals. Now, there's a team that was giving people a lot of heartache. They were breaking hearts and breaking dreams towards the end of the season. Kyler Murray and Cliff Kingsbury were starting to figure it out. Will Kyler Murray get better this offseason, or will he relax this offseason? That's the biggest question. Experience comes some wisdom, which could potentially come some contentment. If that happens to Kyler Murray, I'm not 100% sure. Big question mark, especially with the division they're in. Very good team surrounding them. Jacksonville, nobody knows. Nobody knows what's going to happen to them. And for me, the team, I don't want to do this.
Come on.
The team that is picking in the top 10 of the NFL draft that is going to go on a run next year and maybe potentially scorch earth next year. The team that is going to have a massive come up. Oh, I don't want to say it. The Cleveland Browns. Okay? The Cleveland Browns. They were coached this year by a guy that shouldn't be coaching a JV team, okay? He was a great positional coach, but there was no reason in hell that Freddie Kitchens was a head coach, especially to a team that had that many personalities, that many egos, and that many potential problems. Freddie Kitchens was not the right hire. I think everybody realized that, including the Cleveland Browns, who have fired their 45th coach in like 7 years or whatever. So he's out. They bring in a Harvard guy, Stefanski. They bring in Andrew Berry as general manager, who I know who is a very, very impressive human being. They're changing the culture as much as they possibly can. If Baker Mayfield, who everybody's saying is maturing and changing, can somehow have a great offseason, become a better quarterback. If Jarvis Landry and Odell Beckham can figure out how to buy into the system that Stefanski's putting in there. They have two very good running backs. If they can shore up that offensive line with a 10th pick, maybe get an offensive lineman, maybe something else. And with that defense, with Myles Garrett, the human, who took the helmet off of another professional athlete and hit him with it, and that defense can come back hungry, I think the Cleveland Browns, just like last year I said this, the Cleveland Browns are the team that can absolutely go on a run next year like the 49ers did in an AFC that's probably going to be dominated by Patrick Mahomes and Lamar Jackson, who's in their own division. I think they have enough weapons that they could potentially keep up with the good teams of the AFC, or they could be a complete dumpster fire because they're the Cleveland Browns. It's either the Giants or the Browns in my eyes, or the Chargers if they can get a quarterback. But aside from that, this could potentially be the Browns team to get a run.
Do you think they're going to shop OBJ, or do you think he's going to stay put?
I have no idea what the Browns are going to do, man. It's a lot of money to OBJ, right? Mm-hmm. I would assume Andrew Berry is going to take some phone calls with people who need a weapon and need a weapon quick. The Green Bay Packers need a weapon bad. Is Aaron Rodgers the right guy to kind of, keep OBJ a little bit more focused, maybe a little bit more dialed in? I would assume so. I would assume he would appreciate and respect Aaron Rodgers. I think LaFleur's offense could utilize another weapon. Devontae Adams, Lazard was good this year. Maybe get a tight end. They already got Aaron Jones at running back. Maybe OBJ to Green Bay is the right move. I'm sure Andrew Berry will take calls. But in my eyes, I still think with that defense the Browns have, the stable of running backs and Baker, Jarvis, and whether they have Odell or not, I think they could potentially make a run next year. But they're the Cleveland Browns. They are the Cleveland Browns. So it's the Giants or Browns in my eyes. Chargers if they can secure a big-time quarterback. Other than that, I don't think anybody else in the top 10 that's drafting can make a real run like the 49ers.
No, it doesn't look like it. And the reason why I went with Chargers is because they have weapons. They have Keenan Allen. They have Mike Williams. They have to sign Hunter Henry. They have Eckler at running back. And then on defense, Adrian Phillips and Derwin James were out the entire season hurt.
Also,
and then they have
Melvin
Bosa.
Gordon, right?
Bosa.
He's a free agent.
Oh, they're not going to pay him.
Probably not.
He's sad.
They got Bosa and Ingram on defense. I just like the pieces. If it all relies on who they get a quarterback.
If they secure a quarterback, that is 100% the move. And they're picking 6th, which is too far down to secure one of the top tier quarterbacks, unless they make a move and move up. Everybody thinks the Dolphins are going to try to trade with the Lions. They're going to try to get up there to get Tua to sit for a year behind Ryan Fitzpatrick, which would be a brilliant move, by the way. And Ryan Fitzpatrick at any given moment can win you 9-10 games. Yep. But I'm not sure they're going to make the run to the Super Bowl next year. I think they're in building, but I don't think it's next year. I just think the Browns or the Giants could potentially.
One of the questions from other shows this morning was, should the Dolphins not move up to 3, move up to 1 with 3 first-round draft picks to get Burrow?
And if you're Cincinnati Bengals and you're getting 3 first-round draft picks, do you bite on that, keep Andy Dalton for 1 more year, build it up, and hope that you can fall into the Trevor Lawrence lottery? I have no idea. I think Joe Burrow is the face of that franchise, the Ohio kid who has done nothing but win in the last year, a guy who has the swagger and the confidence to take on the challenge that is the Cincinnati Bengals organization. If you trade out of there and you just get a little bit nosy with those first-round draft picks, the grass isn't always greener on the other sides, my friends. But 3 first-round draft picks is very nice to have at one point. Remember, the Rams got him.
Yeah.
And the Rams went ahead and built just an absolute monster of a team because RG3 to the Redskins. I don't know, man. I don't know. 3 first-round picks is a lot.
It's tempting, but.
Are the Dolphins going to go get Joe Burrow?
Nope. Tua's our guy.
Whoa. Every night, local police departments across America receive hundreds of calls from burglar alarms. The vast majority of the time, they have no idea whether the alarm is real. Is there really a crime going on or not, they ask. All the alarm company can tell them is that a motion sensor went off. SimpliSafe Home Security is different. If there's a break-in, SimpliSafe uses real video evidence to give police an eyewitness account of the crime. That means police dispatch up to 350% faster than the normal burglar alarm. You get comprehensive protection for your entire home. Outdoor cameras and doorbells alert you to anyone approaching your house. Entry, motion, and glass break sensors guard inside. Plus, SimpliSafe protects your home from fires, water damage, and carbon monoxide poisoning. It's 24/7 monitoring by live security professionals. You can set up your system yourself. No tools are needed, or SimpliSafe can do it for you. And it's only 50 cents a day for comfort with no contracts. Visit SimpliSafe.com/Pat. You'll get free shipping and a 60-day risk-free trial. You've got nothing to lose. Go now and be sure you go to SimpliSafe.com/Pat so they know that our show sent you. That's SimpliSafe.com/Pat. We have them all over the office, all over our houses. It's very simple to use, very easy to use. It's the most efficient home security system I've ever seen in my entire life, and I would recommend it to everybody. I literally would. SimpliSafe.com/Pat. We're back on the other side with some phone calls. You're listening to the Pat McAfee Show.
At Simple Mobile, you get the no contract advantage. Unlimited talk, text, and data now for $30 a month. Now on a 5G ready network with no activation fees and no contract ever. That's our best deal ever. Simple Mobile, out with the old, in with the simple.
Welcome back to the Pat McAfee Show here Wednesday, February 5th. Ty Schmidt is slaughtering a toilet right now. Let's get to the phones. Deirdre in New York. What's up, Deirdre?
Hi, Pat. Huge fan of the show. Today's actually my birthday, so I'm really glad that I could be on your show today.
Happy 11th birthday. Let's go. Happy 11th.
Thank you.
How old are you?
I just turned 26.
No way. Deirdre, you sound you sound very, very.
I know. I have a
Go ahead.
young. I look young too.
I'm jealous.
I once got denied with my real ID.
Well, I look like I'm 60, so I'm very jealous, Deirdre. Happy birthday. I'm happy we could celebrate it here on this February 5th. What do you want to talk about?
I was wondering who you think the Jets should draft with their 11th pick. I'm a huge Jets fan. And do you think that they'll be able to take over the AFC East now that?
You know, I don't know. I honestly don't know about the Jets. I think Adam Gase is a terrible coach. I honestly do. And I don't know if that's inaccurate. I just have a terrible, and it might be wrong. It might be wrong. I don't know. When he was at the Dolphins, he stunk, right? He absolutely stunk. Then he gets a head coaching gig at the Jets, and he has one of the worst press conferences I've ever seen in my entire life. And I think it's a prestigious position to be a head coach in the NFL. There's only 32 of them. There's football coaches all over the world. You got football coaches right now that are making $6 a day, sleeping on couches, attempting to get into the profession in different college ranks. They're GAs or all these things. I think there's football coaches all over the place. To become a head coach in the NFL is a very, very difficult thing to become. And with the trend of going younger and more offensive oriented, I think that has kind of debunked the theory that it takes a while to get that. I think Adam Gase has been handed so many opportunities strictly because of a one-year run with Peyton Manning, who Peyton Manning was running the entire offense. If it was anything like the offenses that I watched for 3 years whenever I was here, and for 10 years that I heard about whenever he was here. I think Adam Gase has been given too much credit for far too long. Do I think Sam Darnold has the chance to be a great quarterback? Yeah, I think he does. I think he's shown everything that makes him a good player. He can make every single throw. Now, granted, he got mono, which is very hard not to mock. I mean, he's an adult that got mono. That is very, very hard to mock. Le'Veon Bell looked like he was disinterested for a lot of the year. It didn't look like he was giving full effort. If Le'Veon Bell can play at a high level, and Sam Darnold can make plays for them. And I think they have a wide receiver who's up for free agent. Anderson, I believe, is up for free agent. I think they're going to need a weapon, obviously. Anytime you can get – they got Quinnen Williams, I believe, who's in the middle there. Yes. Maybe get another pass rush in there potentially. I think they need a lot more players than just a few that can make a play for them. But I would like the Jets to be good strictly because a New York team being good or New York teams being good is always good for the league because of the hype that can get around it. But I just don't like Adam Gase. I don't think he's the guy for the job.
Damian Williams came out after the Super Bowl and said when he got hurt with the Dolphins, Adam Gase would not return his calls or texts after he had surgery.
So Damian Williams didn't have success down there in Miami. Who was the wide receiver this year that Adam Gase wanted to cut? But Devontae Parker. I mean, it just feels as if Adam Gase is this known ass, right? There's rumors that have come out that whenever he doesn't succeed or people say things about him that he has privately said, I don't care, I'm rich or whatever. It's just like, I don't know if that's a guy that's going to have any success. I hope he does for Jets fans because I assume they have a great fan base and all that stuff, but I just don't see it.
He also seems like the kind of guy who always has an issue like, well, once I get my guys in here, we'll be fine.
Yeah.
And it's like, at what point are you just a terrible coach and it's not your guys?
Yeah, it's 100% true. Joining us right now is a guy who is a head coach in the NFL. Prestigious position to be a head coach in the NFL. It's not easy to become this. This man was out there in Oakland for a while. Then he was with the Browns for a while. You might have seen him on Hard Knocks. They didn't display him in a beautiful light, but I don't think anybody who's ever coached at Cleveland has been displayed in a beautiful light. Ladies and gentlemen, friend of the show, tequila founder, Hugh Jackson.
Hey, Pat, it's always a pleasure to have an opportunity to talk to you.
Hugh, I've said this to people both on air and off air. After our conversation about a month ago, I have completely became a Hugh Jackson fan club member. I'm a big fan of yours, my brother.
Thank you. I really appreciate that.
No problem. You watch the Super Bowl, obviously, on Sunday. Every
Yes.
coach's dream, no matter when you coach, is to coach in the big game. Now, what is your biggest takeaway from that Chiefs-Niners game? Do you think that the Chiefs are beginning a dynasty right now and that offense is going to be powerful even after they have to pay Patrick Mahomes? Or do you think this Niners defense is going to be one that's going to be able to maintain the wins and Jimmy G is going to be a quarterback for winning in the future?
Well, I think it's a combination of everything you said. I think, first of all, when you think about the Chiefs, obviously they got a very good young core of players. an unbelievable quarterback, a great coaching staff. Their defense is starting to play really well too. I think Coach Spagnuolo did a great job from a defensive standpoint to put him in position to have a chance to win the game. But Patrick Mahomes is going to be the key to the Kansas City Chiefs for years to come. When you go and you think about San Francisco, they had an opportunity to win a game. They were up, in the fourth quarter, up by a couple of scores, a score and a field goal, I believe 10 points. They get a turnover. You think game over, but it's that's the time when the quarterback has to really show up. And I'm not going to say that Jimmy didn't. I don't have those answers because I'm not sure exactly what they were trying to accomplish. But it seemed like the game got away from him there, and then all of a sudden you look up in Kansas City with this quarterback who has this never say die attitude, finds a way to win the game. But in the future, is the San Francisco defense going to be real? Yes, because they're only going to improve and add to all the first rounders they have on that team. They're a very talented defensive team. I think Kyle Shanahan, obviously he's getting a little unfairly criticized right now. He's a tremendous football coach. He won a lot of games. I would challenge people to go back and see where San Francisco was, 4 years ago, or 5 years ago, and look where they are now. And hopefully he'll get it back to where they need to be so they can make the Super Bowl this upcoming year.
Okay, I was a kicker that missed 2 kicks in a game, first quarter albeit, but in a game that would have sent my team to the national championship. So anytime anybody goes after kickers, I have a heart for them, right? I feel like you potentially have a heart for coaches that get unfairly judged, I would assume. Is that accurate?
Absolutely.
It's a hard position being a head coach in the NFL, Hugh.
It is. You wear a lot of different hats, and things have to go right. And there's a little bit of luck to that, too. But at the same time, he's afforded a lot of talent, and you got to find a way to get it done. I do get that. I know that's what comes with it. But to be in that game says a lot about what kind of coach he is.
I agree completely. He's grown up in the game, been a student of the game with his dad, obviously. Excited to see what they do in the future. Let's pivot real quick. Dak Prescott, it is being reported that he's going to get franchise tag down there in Dallas. Now, I'm to the understanding that he deserves a long-term contract. He's been underpaid for a long time down there in Dallas, especially with all the theatrics and dramatics that happen around the Dallas Cowboys. But with a new head coach and a potential new offense coming in there, do you think it's a smart play to see if 1 year run with Mike McCarthy is a healthy fit, or do you think they should pay this man his money?
I think they should pay him, and I tell you why, Pat, because they kept the offensive coordinator who watched him transcend his game this past year.
Okay.
And so it'd be different if that was an entirely new staff, but there's still pieces there that they're still, they kept the coordinator for a reason because they really believe that him and I'm sure Dak really, they worked well together. So that's the only reason why you do that for a head coach who's an offensive head coach. So I think they made a decision that this guy is their future. They're trying to do everything they can to put him in the best environment so he can be all he can be. And I think this is just the other character that's out there. You might as well pay him and get it over with.
Coach, you were a coach who had the first overall draft pick and a coach with the Cincinnati Bengals. What's the process like when you're the number 1 overall draft pick team, listening to teams that want to come up and possibly give you 3 first rounds for the number 1 pick? And do you think the Cincinnati Bengals should listen or just take Burrow and move on?
I think the Cincinnati Bengals should take Burrow and move on. I say that for this reason. It's hard to find a quarterback in the National Football League. So you have to take the swing when it's there. And he's sitting there. The guy had a phenomenal season. He's had a phenomenal career at LSU. And he's played as well as any quarterback that's entering the draft has played in a long time. So I think I would be remiss if I thought that they should look at something else. I think they have still a pretty veteran team. But if you don't have that guy under center, it's going to be hard for you to win any games in the National Football League.
Well, and also in Ohio, this is an Ohio kid. You, as a guy who's been in Cleveland and Cincinnati, knows how big of a deal that is. I mean, Joe Burrow could be the face of that franchise for the next 15 years.
Oh, absolutely. And he's going to draw. The fans are going to come out. I mean, he's going to change the landscape of the Cincinnati Bengals, in my opinion.
Okay, Hugh. Tua is obviously coming fresh off of hip surgery. He had 4 surgeries in 2 years, but still being talked about as a top 3 pick. Everybody thinks that somebody's going to try to get to the Lions spot. Potentially the Dolphins are going to draft him and have him sit behind a quarterback. My thought has always been this. whenever we cut Peyton Manning, we owed him like $30 million or something, and he didn't know if he could still grip a football, and the lockout was happening, and Luck was sitting there. But I always thought that if Luck could sit behind Peyton for 1 year and watch how Peyton handled, whether it was the meeting rooms or how he talked to the coaches or the general manager even, how he handled being the boss of the team, I think that would have helped Andrew Luck, who was already great. I think that would have helped him a lot. You see Aaron Rodgers with Brett Favre. It has helped him out immensely. You see Jimmy G with Tom Brady. It has helped him out. Patrick Mahomes with Alex Smith. I think having that good veteran quarterback helps out a younger quarterback immensely. Do you see the same thing potentially happening with Tua? And do you believe in that type of system happening?
I totally believe in that. I think it's hard to be a first-year player out of college, come into the National Football League, be in that environment with a bunch of grown men now whose jobs are on the line. They're looking to you, which you've never won a game in the league before. They understand you're talented, but they're there to win. They're not there just to be playing around. And that's a lot of pressure to put on a young player. And sometimes I think players get destroyed if you play them too soon. So if this is going to be the most important asset in the organization, make sure you have the right plan in place for him to have long-term success. It's not about early success, but we all know early success leads to long success. So let's do everything we can to put him in position. And I think playing a guy too soon really hurts him.
Yeah, it seemed like you were kind of conflicted with that with Baker and Tyrod there whenever it happened for Baker Mayfield. It seemed like you very much wanted Baker to kind of follow in the footsteps of what Tyrod was doing, getting in early, the film study and things like that, because those are things that can really shape a player. And it almost felt like the organization and fans are potentially looking a different way. That's a very difficult decision for a coach to have to make.
Oh, absolutely. Tyrod was a pro, and that's who our starter was, and we had committed to him. So I couldn't go back in the locker room and say, oh, we're going to go play Baker because we drafted Baker #1 overall. Everybody knew we were going to take a quarterback, but everybody on the team knew who Tyrod Taylor was because he was there. He was in the offseason program. He had been to the playoffs. So you have to, as a head coach, stand for something, and I was going to stand for what I thought was right. Now, I did tell Baker at some point in time, he would end up playing. I didn't know how that was going to happen. I didn't know what it was going to look like. But I just know if it's for a player to end up playing, then that they just do. And he did, and the rest is history for him.
Okay, you've obviously saw Baker in his year last year was not great. With Freddie Kitchens, who was your running back coach, things kind of all went to hell in a handbasket. The most penalized team, I think, in documented history of the NFL. I mean, it was all just upside down. Baker now on Get Up this past week and did a media tour. Seems like he's changing a little bit. What do you think, from knowing Baker from the beginning, seeing success, and then seeing this fail this year, what do you think it's going to take for him to really get over the hump and become a premier quarterback in the NFL?
Well, I think first and foremost, he's talented enough. There's no question about that. I think watching his humility over the last couple interviews he's had says a lot about him. I think he's learning and he's growing. I've always said, as a head coach in this league and as a position coach coaching that position, this league will bring you to your knees. So you better understand that and understand you're not bigger than the league, that you're a part of it. And you better make sure you do your part the right way to have success. And the entitlement thing doesn't work up here. So I think he's understanding that. And it's going to be very important that, the team that's going to be surrounding him. I'm not talking about the players. I'm talking about the coaches to put him in position so that he can have long-term success.
I can't believe I didn't ask you about this the last time we had you on. You were a coach of Myles Garrett, obviously. He had an outburst out of the middle of nowhere. Everybody said it was out of character, but it was a bad look for the league, bad look for him, bad look for the Browns. He's going to come back next year. What do you expect from Myles Garrett, both as a human and a player, as he comes back on the field?
Myles will be very contrite about what happened. There's no question about that.
That's a good word, by the
way. He will be. And that's where it has to start. I really do, because the act was something we had all never seen before. So he does have to go rebuild himself that way. But he's one of the most talented players and people I have ever been around. I was surprised and shocked at what happened. Do I think he can recover from it? Yes, I do. His talent is immense. But it's not going to be about his talent. It's going to be about how he handles the media and how he handles, what has happened to him. He can't be bitter about it. It happened. Got to accept it and move on.
I can't even fathom what the meathead offensive linemen are going to say. Oh, my God. I can't even fathom it.
Coach, you talked about drafting a quarterback number 1 overall and playing them early. You were with Andy Dalton. You won a lot of games with Andy Dalton. When they draft Joe Burrow number 1, is there any chance Andy Dalton can be kept there, or do you think Andy has what it takes? They'll cut him and then have Andy play somewhere else?
Well, I think as an organization, this is just my opinion. I think you have to have somebody in place to play first and foremost, regardless of who you're drafting, number 1, 2, 3, 4, especially at that quarterback position. You don't know if that guy is going to walk in a building and be able to handle and manage all the pressure and stress that comes with that position. College football is a little bit different than the National Football League. Now you're drafting a guy because you believe he can, but what if he can't? Now you've put your organization and the team in a situation where they can't win. So I think it's important that you have the right plan in place. I think there's a time and a place to play those guys. Some guys play early and they do well, and then they fall off and they come back. Some guys don't do well early, and then they understand the National Football League because they don't have that mentor that Pat talked about earlier out in front of them, and then all of a sudden they figure it out and they start playing. Every organization I think is different, and I think there's all kind of ways to do it. But at the same time, I would like to have a guy that's already there who has played, that can help lead this guy through and have him understand what it's going to be like.
You need a team full of pros. Like, that's the difference between is you have to have pros, right? And I think there's a difference between good football players and pros. And I think back to the Hard Knocks episode where Reggie Wayne was up for the Hall of Fame this year. And he didn't make it. He'll make it eventually because he deserves it, not only on the field, but, he's a stud. But what I noticed from Reggie Wayne is he would run extra routes before practice. After every single practice, he was on the jugs machine. And then when I watch Hard Knocks, you had to punish somebody by sending them to the jugs machine. Like, for me, that was a big sign of the type of players that were on that team. Like, it shouldn't be punishment to go to the jugs machine. That should be what you want to do. And I think it's interesting. How do you create that culture where you get a bunch of players that, want to be pros? I don't think I fully understand it.
Well, I think you said it, though, Pat. I mean, that's the pros are who win.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, that's who wins for you. So you got to have enough of them on your team so the younger players can see what it looks like, and then they will follow suit. That's when you have a really strong culture. Like you said, if you're making a guy go do it, you probably don't have the right veteran in that room.
Yeah.
The pros, they understand in order for me to stay here and belong here, I got to be as good as anybody playing the game, and they chase that. And they may not become that, but they chase it. So you have to have enough pros that show people how to do it.
What the hell are you up to? Marvin Lewis just got hired by the Arizona State team. What are you doing? Are we getting back in the game? Are we chilling? Are we selling tequila?
Well, we're selling tequila for sure. I am itching to be back in the game. I want that opportunity again. There's no question. I mean, I think we've seen this cycle of hiring and how it's been, and I'm not even talking about even a head coaching job, just overall period. So, you got to wait your time. I guess that's what they say, and
Hey,
I'm not
Hugh,
a very patient person, but we'll figure it out as we go.
Hold on. Let's talk about this because this is a big deal. Eric Bieniemy, offensive coordinator of one of the most talented offenses to ever grace our NFL, didn't get a head coaching gig. Right? Didn't get a head coaching gig. Mm-hmm. And I asked, and I even said it, and this might be me being a stupid white guy, very naive. I said, how the hell is this guy not get a coach? And everybody's like, well, obviously, there is one certain X factor that you will not mention. And it's this Rooney Rule, which Roger Goodell they have to reconsider. How do they fix that? And is that something that in 2020 we shouldn't even be talking about? Like, what the...
You just said it. The fact that we're even talking about a Rooney Rule tells you that we're still not where we need to be. That's first and foremost. My question to you, Pat, I'm going to give you some information. Do you know how many minority offensive head coaches there's been in a 100-year history of the league?
No.
5.
Oh, my God.
Do you know how many minority head coaches there's been overall offensively or defensively in the 100-year history of the league?
15.
18.
I was close, though. I mean, that was good.
So
that is sad, though. That is a sad stat.
We talk about it a lot, but I think people got to dig deeper and to find where the answers are. Because in the National Football League, in my opinion, it's been going on for 100 years. Nothing's changed. So, and the league is still growing. It's still getting better. Still making a lot of money. I know that people say the color is white and it's black. No, it's not. It's green. And that's what everybody got to understand. I mean, because the league is growing, so everybody said, why do we need to change everything? Why do we need to fix this? Well, there's a diversity issue that's been there for a long time. And so in order to fix it, you have to get with the people who make the decisions. You have to make sure the owners understand everything that goes on. There's a diversity report that comes out every year. I never knew this until since I've been out of football. And people need to look at that and find out what's in that report. I think a lot of people will be shocked.
I can't wait to see you get back in the game. We got to get to a break. I can't thank you enough for joining us. I'm going to drink the hell out of your tequila. You're the best.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Ladies and gentlemen, Hugh Jackson. This is the Pat McAfee Show. We have to get to a break. That was awesome to chat about there. Thanks to Hugh.
It's happening. People are freeing themselves from their wireless contracts. It's a movement towards something simple. Get truly unlimited data on a 5G ready network for just $45 a month with no contract ever. Simple Mobile. Out with the old, in with the simple.
Great conversation there with Hugh Jack. Tell you, I've fully 180'd on Hugh Jackson after talking to him. I guess that's kind of what happens whenever you get to know somebody. Let's get to a phone call real quick before we got to get out of here for the day. Dylan in Indiana. Yesterday, this man told a story that made me hit myself in the head with a hammer. But what are we without second chances?
You're right.
Dylan from Indiana, what's going on, pal?
Not a whole lot, guys. I feel bad for yesterday. I really want to apologize for all that.
Dylan, one of the greatest gifts we've ever made came from your story. Let's not say it's all negative. There's a little bit of positive that came from it. And the fact that your wife and you didn't know that A-Rod was A-Rod is a beautiful thing, Dylan. No worries, pal.
Well, I'd like to apologize if you do end up with CTE for smashing your head at that.
Good call there. See that, Dylan? You did good there. Let's go to Hassan down there in Toronto. We got about 30 seconds left. Hassan, what's up, pal?
Hey, not too much, Pat. First of all, Happy New Year to you and the guys.
Welcome back, Hassan.
Shout out to Cuban Zeke for looking like he's going to be on all of Faggio's music videos. My question to you guys is, do you think Deshaun Watson can be the quarterback he's playing under Travis Dean and Bill O'Brien, who fired his DC because they couldn't defend enough?
Well,
GM Bill O'Brien.
Hassan, that's a great question. Not only did he fire the DC, he also made sure everybody knows who's the guy in charge there. He added the general manager title. I guess we should give him a little bit more credit. The Houston Texans did make it to the playoffs. They did have a good run towards the end of the season. Deshaun Watson seems to be this guy who shows up in glimpses. Whenever it's a massive moment or whatever, he shows up in glimpses. I think the thing about Deshaun Watson is he has all of the ability, all of the skill in the world. If he can put together 4 quarters of dominance, and if that team can really come together, I think the Houston Texans will always be dangerous. But is Tom Brady going to the Tennessee Titans? Is that going to change the dynamic? What happens if Teddy Bridgewater comes to the Colts? The AFC South is about to be a wrecking ball. But the AFC runs through Kansas City, as does the Super Bowl parade, which happens today. Let's check that out. We can't wait to talk to you tomorrow. This has been the Pat McAfee Show from Indianapolis, Indiana!
At Simple Mobile, you get the no-contract advantage. Unlimited talk, text, and data now for $30 a month. Now on a 5G-ready network with no activation fees ever. No confusion, no complexity, no frustration, and no contract. Ever, ever, ever. Now get unlimited talk, text, and data for $30 a month. And now 5G-ready. It's our best deal ever. Buy yours now at nationwide retailers or at Simple Mobile dealers. Learn more at simplemobile.com. Simple Mobile, out with the old, in with the simple.